Have you ever thought about how you could make a single act of charity last forever? Not just for a year or even a decade, but for generations to come. Well, today we're going to dive into a fascinating concept that's designed to do exactly that. It's a unique kind of endowment known as Waqf. So here's our roadmap. We'll kick things off with the big idea behind a charity that's built to last. Then we'll get into the nuts and bolts, who's involved and what the rules are. After that, we'll zoom in on the massive scale of Waqf in India and wrap up with the big debate that's happening around it right now. All right, let's get right to the heart of it. What's the fundamental principle here? What makes Waqf so different from just, writing a check to a good cause? It all starts with this very powerful question. See, most charity is, well, it gets used up. Money gets spent. Food gets eaten. It's a one-and-done deal. But what if you could somehow preserve the original gift itself and just let the community live off the benefits it creates year after year? Now that is the problem Waqf was designed to solve. This analogy of a field is just a perfect way to think about it. Imagine you dedicate a piece of land. That's your original asset. You don't own it anymore. The community can't sell it. It's locked in. But every single year, the harvest from that field, that feeds people. The original gift stays intact, but the good it does just keeps on flowing, endlessly. That's the real power of this system. So to put a more formal definition on it, the word Waqf itself literally means to hold or to restrict. And that's exactly what's happening. When you create a Waqf, you're essentially saying, I'm dedicating this property permanently. The idea is that the ownership is transferred to God, while the benefit goes to humanity. That original asset is locked away, restricted forever. Okay, so that's the big picture. But how does this actually work in practice? Well, for any Waqf to function, you need 3 essential rules. 3 key players. First, you've got the founder, also known as the Waqf. That's the person who makes the donation. Simple enough. Second, you need someone to manage the asset, to run the show. That's the manager or mutawali. Think of them as the trustee. And third, of course, you have the beneficiaries, the whole reason the Waqf was created in the first place. Now, as you can probably imagine, dedicating something forever isn't something you can just do on a whim. It comes with some very specific rules. There are conditions for both the person creating the Waqf and for the asset itself. And this really shows you how serious the commitment is. For the donor, you have to be an adult, of sound mind, you have to actually own the property free and clear, and it has to be voluntary. For the donation itself, it's got to be for a good purpose, be something real and tangible, and it must be permanent, unconditional, and, this is crucial, documented. It's all about clarity and making sure it lasts. So you might be wondering how this is different from other forms of Islamic charity. Well, zakat is an obligatory, annual donation. Sadaqah is more of a voluntary, one-time gift. Waqf is totally unique because it's a voluntary but permanent endowment. The original asset is preserved, not given away, which is why it's seen as providing an ongoing spiritual reward, even after death. And while this is a global concept, its impact is just staggering in certain parts of the world. So let's pivot now and take a look at the massive legacy of Waqf in India. Just look at that number. It's hard to even wrap your head around. Over 872,000 registered Waqf properties. We're talking mosques, schools, shelters, and just vast areas of land. It's so much that collectively, the Waqf boards are one of the biggest landowners in the entire country. Now, managing a portfolio that huge has required a long history of laws. State Waqf boards were set up way back in 1954, and then a major governing law was passed in 1995. The legal framework has been evolving for more than a century, and that brings us right to the debate that's flaring up today. And that evolution is continuing with a new proposed amendment that has sparked some really intense discussion. So the question is this a necessary reform or is it a step too far? Okay, so the people who support the reform, they point to some really serious issues. There have been allegations of corruption for years. There's widespread illegal encroachment on Waqf lands. And maybe the most shocking thing is how little revenue these valuable properties generate. Way, way less than their potential. Plus, a lot of the older, historic properties just don't have the proper paperwork. So you really have 2 sides to this. The government says the new bill is all about fighting corruption, increasing transparency, and just modernizing the whole system. But the critics are really worried. They argue that these changes could weaken the independence of the Waqf boards, add a ton of new red tape, and put those historic, undocumented properties at serious risk. And this quote from MP Asadeen Owaisi really nails the core fear on the opposition side. The concern is that new, strict documentation rules could actually help the people who have been illegally occupying Waqf land. They might get a chance to make their claims official, and the community could end up losing the properties for good. So, where are we now? Well, it's still a live issue. The bill actually passed the lower house of parliament, but the Supreme Court has stepped in and put a hold on some of its key parts. So for right now, the future of Waqf governance in India is very much still being decided. So what's the big takeaway from all this? I think it's that Waqf is so much more than just a simple donation. It's a powerful vision for a sustainable, long-term way to support a community funded by endowments that are meant to last forever. It's a system with a deep, complex history, and it's still incredibly relevant today. And that really leaves us with this final thought. As this ancient system faces all the challenges of the 21st century, the central question is this: how do you balance protecting a sacred, centuries-old tradition with the very real, urgent need for modern transparency and effectiveness? It's a tough question, and definitely something to think about.